Hello, this is devlog number 2 for my game, Shards of Glass, the FPS survival exploration game that I'm making solo. In this devlog, I got a decent amount of stuff done. I got a stamina system pretty much fully fleshed out. I got a simple UI system. I got a hunger, thirst, and even health system put together. So, without further ado, let's get to my progress. So, first, I started on my progression with starting work on the stamina system for the game. I wanted the stamina system to be pretty simple, but yet realistic. So, I wanted it to drain stamina when sprinting, jumping, and other actions later on. These other actions might be something like pushing a box or whatever have you. Something that would take stamina in real life to do. Like holding breath, maybe, when you're using a firearm. The stamina system is fairly simple, with it just draining a certain amount out of 100 every second that you are sprinting, which all of these values can and will be changed in the future, because they are just merely placeholders at the moment so that I can see if something is working or if it is not working. So when you see in the video the stamina draining extremely quickly, that's merely just a placeholder. It doesn't actually mean that it's going to drain that quickly in the actual game. The stamina regen system then came next, and it's also pretty simple. The gist of it being when the player stops sprinting, or jumping, or whatever action, a certain amount of stamina will be regened every second or half second. I will want to expand this in the future, depending on something like injuries or sickness or different things that will prevent you from regenerating stamina as efficiently as you would if you were completely healthy. The next thing that I worked on was the jumping stamina, which surprisingly gave me a ton of trouble. The reason for this was every time you press spacebar, it would decrease 25 stamina even if you were still midair and not jumping. This was a problem because you could deplete your entire stamina bar with only jumping once, which is a huge problem because later, if I do decide to go with a stamina bar that recharges slower, then it's going to be annoying as all can be. Eventually, after setting up a ton of checks, it finally worked and led me on to the next item, which is UI. I set up this really basic UI, with progress bars just to visually show how much stamina I had left. Keep in mind that this is entirely temporary and will definitely change in the future to be more concise, and eventually most of the things on the UI will be moved inside of the inventory to be less cluttered. Because personally, I hate cluttered UIs in a realistic survival game. This can be changed by anyone. I am entirely open to new ideas, and I am making this game for other people and myself, so please put your input in. I will definitely take it not lightly. So the next thing that I worked on was the 4 main mechanics of the game, of that being hunger, thirst, health, and shock. Hunger and thirst being pretty self-explanatory, of just draining a certain amount every second or every certain amount of time that the character is doing something or just existing. Actions such as jumping and sprinting will increase the rate of thirst and hunger. Shock is something that I really want to add to the game, where basically certain attacks or certain objects will give you a shock meter, which will, if at a certain amount, will knock you out for a certain amount of time. This is similar to a game like DayZ, where when you get shot, certain guns do more shock damage than others, leading to getting knocked out quicker. I only did end up working on hunger, thirst, and health for this devlog. All 3 went fairly smoothly until I did starvation and dehydration. These took me so long to figure out with the health system, but in the end, after I did a ton of trial and error, it did eventually work, so now the player has indefinitely decreasing hunger and thirst, which are slow but can be, again, accelerated by actions such as sprinting and jumping, and temperature. Temperature will come much later. It is something that I'm definitely going to add, but not anytime soon, as it doesn't really affect the core mechanics of the game. Once either of those reach 0, the player's health will decrease and eventually die if it reaches 0. I did make a death screen, which is entirely a placeholder. I actually found it kind of funny how straightforward it is and simple, but it will definitely change later on, including a screen for respawning if I do not decide to do permadeath, which I most likely will not, because a lot of people do not like permadeath. So there will most likely be an option for permadeath, but that will come, again, much later. What I have not done yet is making a way to replenish these bars, such as eating or drinking. And this will most likely come in the next devlog as placeholders such as cubes, just as a showcase to show how you can replenish these. The final thing I did in this devlog was actually something that I mentioned in the previous devlog, which was a crouching bug. If you walked up to an object, crouched underneath it, and released it before clearing said object, you would be glitched into the object and not be able to move until you recrouched. Fixing this took so much time and effort, but I did eventually figure it out. I used a tutorial from Kawaii VFX. I used part of his crouching tutorial to fix the crouching bug that I did have, so thank you so much to him to helping me figure this out. I will link it down below if you want to check out his channel. Essentially, the objective of this devlog was to just get the core mechanics of the game, such as stamina, thirst, health, hunger, etc. done. And with that concludes devlog number 2 for my game, Shards of Glass. In the next devlog, I will be setting up a time system and a sleep system and fixing other potential bugs that have arisen since this devlog. I've decided against doing the food and water replenishing systems at this time, and they will most likely come in devlog number 4, because I would like to do them in tandem with the inventory system. I would like to know if you guys want devlogs to be longer but less frequent on uploads, or shorter but way more frequent on uploads. So you will be getting the same amount of content, just it depends on whether you want them to come out more frequently or less frequently but have more content in them. So with that, devlog 2 is completed, and I will see you in devlog 3. Let me know your thoughts down below.